Hello everybody, my name is Marlo and today I'm going to show you how I build my roofs in Minecraft. Now this is a video I've been wanting to make for a while now and I've been holding off on it because I wasn't really sure the best way to go about it. Until now, that is. So originally I was going to piece together some different roof designs in a creative world and showcase them that way. However, I think it's going to be much more helpful if I show you the roofs I've already built in my numerous survival worlds. That way the builds are fully complete instead of just having a roof placed onto a blank box, but I also think I'll better be able to explain my thought process for building them. So we're going to take a trip around some of my old worlds as well as my current worlds, and I'll do my best to give you some pointers on how to build roofs in Minecraft. Welcome to Fisher's Nest. This is my custom village that I made a little while ago here on my channel, and we're going to spend quite a lot of time here today during this video because there are just so many roofs in this place and we've got a ton of examples to go through, so we will definitely be looking at a lot of the buildings in this place. But for now, we're just going to start off with this building here, which very simply is just a villager house. There's nothing really specific about it. It's just a house. As you can see from the inside, there's not too much going on. But the reason why I want to look at this one is because it's probably the simplest roof in this entire place. It's what you would expect. It's the classic staircase all the way up on both sides and they meet in the middle here, and then very simply you just fill in the middle with another type of stair. But I'm highlighting this one to begin with because I think it's a good starting point. If you have no idea how to build any sort of roof in Minecraft, this is what you should be aiming for as a beginner. So you have your pillars or the corners of your build. That's where you want to start the staircase, and you kind of want to go up until you reach the center and go down on the other side with a separate block to what you're going to fill the roof in with. Now you don't have to do that, it's not a strict rule, but to begin with I'd say that's a really good starting point. And then on the sides here that don't go up into the center, you pretty much just want to have a flat line going all the way across, connecting one side to the other. You can see I've added in some upside down stairs here, but that's more of an extra detail that you don't need to add in, and we're going to focus on all of this sort of stuff later on in the video. But for right now, to start off the video, we're just going to be looking at some different roof shapes and designs. And by the way, I just want to mention, I know I'm in creative mode right now. These are copies of all of my worlds. I'm just saying it now because I know somebody is going to mention it in the comments. These aren't my actual survival worlds. I've just made a copy of all of them so I can fly around and easily show you all of the roofs. So we've got this very simple roof shape design. I would say the next level up is something like this one right here. It's pretty much the same sort of style, starting here and staircasing up to the center and going back down and having a flat side along here. This time you're just adding in a full block above the upside down stair. That way you get a bit of a taller roof design. As I mentioned a minute ago, it's not necessary to have a roof outline. You can build a roof out of the same block all the way across. You don't need this color on the outside and something different in the middle. However, I would still recommend building the outline first of all, even if you're going to use the same blocks in the center here, because I think it makes the building process so much easier. So you start on the corners, as I said, and build one side, then maybe do the flip side over here, which would possibly be the same as the back, and then the two sides would be the same if you got a very square building, right? So get that in place, do the line across the top if you want to do something like that, and worry about filling in afterwards. Trust me, it's going to be a whole lot easier that way. You could do something different like I have for this building right here, where we have 4 of the archways instead of 2 of them. So you place them on all of the sides, connect them up in the middle, and you don't have any of the short sides like here for instance. It's just the archway on all 4 of them. Something else you can very easily do is add a roof extension. So let's take my school building here as an example. As you can see, this building juts out a little bit at the front. That's part of the design. But if you look at the roof shape, minusing this part, it looks like the first roof that we showed off. Just a staircase up, a staircase down, then a line going across. We just have this section in the middle, which comes out a little bit. So all I've done here is once again starting with the roof outline, getting all of this in place, and then when it comes to filling in this middle section, I've started off here, gone across with the stairs because I have a stair here next to the outline, then I've gone across with the planks, then the stairs again, then the planks again, going to a certain point. And then I'll move over to this outline and start filling in from here. So these are all stairs. I want them to be next to the spruce stairs, so I just go them across until they got to the plank. These ones would go across until they connect to the stair on the corner here, as you can see, and then the plank, and then the stairs once again. Pretty much all you're trying to do is create a seamless transition from this section of the roof to this section, so it looks nice and neat, and it doesn't look completely different from this side to this side. You just want it to connect well in the middle here, and I think this is a pretty good example of that. This is potentially a bit more of an extreme example. Here is my library building, which has 3 roof extensions out the front here, and at first glance this possibly looks really messy. And you would be right. It does. This, as I said, is an extreme example. I wouldn't recommend jumping into something like this directly to begin with, but I'm just giving you an idea of what's possible on that first idea. So, as you can see, I added in all of my roof extensions one after another, and when it came to filling in, I just did my very best to make it look as neat as possible. There's some things that I would change if I had it my way, but it would probably mean redesigning the entire build, which just wouldn't really be worth it. So all you've got to try and do is just make it look as neat as you possibly can, making use of stairs, slabs, full blocks, and even potentially trapdoors. We're going to leave the village now, but we will be sure to come back to it later on because there are some more roof designs in here that are potentially a bit more unique, and I could do some talking about them. But for right now, let's go to another world and have a look at some of the roofs there. Welcome to my hardcore world, and more specifically my Amethyst Tower, which is the first example in this world that I want to showcase. And that's because it's made out of, with the exception of the roof outline here, full blocks. Amethyst blocks. There's not a stair variant for these sort of things, and I think if you're working on a big enough scale, there's no reason whatsoever as to why you can't use full blocks. So my advice for building with full blocks like this one would be 1. Make sure you are in fact building on a big enough scale. If you're making something really small, like the size of that tent for example, you're going to want to use something with slab and stair variants, otherwise it's going to look really big and clunky almost. So make sure you're building something that is large enough to warrant using full blocks. Also, I would recommend sticking with this roof outline here, using something that has the stair and slab variants, because if you could imagine here, even if it was a different block to Amethyst and I did that with the roof outline, it would look a little bit weird. I think we can all agree on that. So having the stair and slab variants for the roof outline, I think can be very beneficial. And lastly, when it comes to actually building this, filling in these sections with the full blocks, you just want to do it in the same way as I mentioned earlier, without the use of slabs and stairs, of course. You're just trying to build this in a way so that it looks super smooth, super neat, and in this case, super symmetrical, so that from a distance, you can't even really tell that it's full blocks at all. This is a pretty good example of some buildings I've made using full blocks in the roof design. This is my fantasy elven village Eriduin from my Techtopia series, and as you can see here, all of these buildings are made with a combination of wall, concrete and concrete powder of varying colours, and that's the upside to using full blocks. You're not limited to just the variants that have slabs and stairs. You can use pretty much any block in the game, which gives me the option to use all of these lovely colors to create this fantasy feel. So there are definitely some upsides to using the full blocks. You just kind of have to take it with a grain of salt and remember it's not going to be as smooth if you were to use slabs and stairs, but you got to pick and choose which you would prefer. The other build I want to show off from my hardcore world here is my foundry, and really the only thing I want to highlight here is the idea of a tiered roof. So as you can see here, we have one roof at the bottom and then another one at the top, and all you really want to do to create that is take away a section of the roof when you've made your first one. As you can see here, I just kind of cut out the middle bit, and then I built a smaller roof on top, adding in those pillars again, almost to create a secondary part of the building. Pretty self-explanatory, I just thought it was worth a mention. Now it's time for a world that is maybe a bit more familiar to some of you. This is my current survival world, and there's one build in particular that I want to talk about here, which is my watermill. As you can see, we have a very funky roof. This is a combination of orange terracotta, red sandstone, and red sandstone slabs. Now this in itself is a bit of a bold choice, but it's just to give you an idea of the type of roof that you could create. So once again, I've started with the outline here using jungle. We have the slab, trapdoor, and stair variants that is able to get that nice neat outline in place. And then for the roof, I've gone for a bit more of a messy combination of all of these blocks. As you can see, I've once again started with the roof outline using jungle this time. That is, once again, maybe not a block that's favorable for some of you, but that's okay. You don't have to follow the block choices here. It's more the shape and the design. But all I've done is place these down similar to what I would do if I was to use stairs. So I'd start off with this stair, have a line of stairs going all the way across, so on and so forth, down these 3 levels. Then at the end here, maybe I just have some slabs or something. So I've kind of followed that shape for the roof, except I've just added in some of the slabs and stairs, kind of brought some of the sections out a little bit, added a few odd slabs down here, and made these corners look a little bit messy, just to make it look like a bit of a tattered and old roof design. Something else I have a couple of times in this world are some towers, so I thought maybe we could just do a little clip on these. So when it comes to towers, they tend to have smaller roofs. Obviously they're not quite as big as the main building here. So all I've done for this one here, hello thunderstorm, gonna make this clip nice and loud, are you? Apparently so. So I've started with the roof outline at the bottom here, and I've kind of gone up similar to what I would do if I was just building a regular house and filled it all in. It's very similar to the amethyst tower that we featured not too long ago from the hardcore world, but maybe if you're building a bit of a smaller tower, let's head over to my villager breeder up here, which has an end stone roof. There's some odd block choices in this world, that's kind of the purpose of it. But as you can see here, I haven't got the 4 sections going up to the center here because it's a much smaller roof. That would mean there'd be like 2 or 3 blocks of end stone on each corner. So you don't always have to have the lines going up to the meet in the middle. You can just have a bit of a ring around the bottom here, kind of similar to what I've done over here on my station building. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about where this world is concerned, with the exception of this one possibly. It's my starter house, and I thought it might just be worth a mention quickly because it does have some interesting roof choices as well as some other interesting choices. But the idea here is we actually have 4 completely unique roof designs all molded into one build. So hopefully this can give you an idea of the possibilities if you just have a mess around with some different roof designs, not necessarily putting them all together in one build like I've done here, but there are some different ones on show, so I thought it was worth just putting this in the video quickly. So we are now back here in the village because, as I mentioned earlier, there's a ton of different roofs on show here, and I think some of them need a separate mention in this video. So let's go around to some of the maybe more unique buildings and we can take a quick look at them. Here's an odd one. This is a completely diagonal house. I do have quite a lot of slightly diagonal houses, ones that just kind of jut off by a couple of blocks, like this one here for example, or even this one, but this building right here, my shepherd's house, is completely built on a diagonal angle, which maybe isn't something everybody wants to try. It can be very, very finicky to do, but I do think it makes for a bit of an interesting build. And the roof outline and filling it in, it's pretty much exactly the same as what I talked about earlier with building the outline first, filling it in afterward, except you're just working on a diagonal angle. So if you want to give this a go, feel free to do so, but do bear in mind it can be a little bit tricky. And with some of these other slightly diagonal buildings, they also can be quite tricky to build, but if you're making something like a village, it can be a good idea to add a couple of them in. I think it just makes it feel a bit more natural than everything being built on the same axes, just either this way or that way. So if you want to try your hand at some of that, you could always create something like this, which is quite extreme. So as you can see here, this is very, very higgledy-piggledy, I would say is the best way to describe it. That's a very British term, but there we go. It is a little bit all over the place, but it's the same core concept, starting with the roof outline, doing my best to make it look as neat as possible, joining them up in the middle here, and then taking each section one at a time, using all of the blocks I have on hand, so stairs, full blocks, and slabs, to make it look as smooth as possible. I think these can technically count as a roof. It's potentially more of an awning. I'm not really sure. It's got a covering over a little area underneath, so I'm going to count it as a roof. But if you're maybe making something like a blacksmith, which is what this building here is meant to be, you can add in something like this on the outside work area, and you don't have to go obviously as high as the roof. You don't have to complete the roof in full. It's more so just a little section, a covering almost, to go over this outside area. Just around this corner here is another good example of that. This is my stonecutter's house, I believe, and I've just kind of added a little separate section onto the build here and made its own individual roof out of a different block, I might add. I feel like that's quite important, but not necessary. If you want to make it out of the same blocks, it's entirely up to you. So there is one building in this village that to me has always felt like it doesn't really fit all that well, and it's this one right here, especially where the roof is concerned. I just don't think it really fits the style. It maybe looks a bit more Japanese potentially to me. I'm not sure. But the point is that if you're building something like a village or a town or an area consisting of a bunch of houses of the same style, it is important to keep to that same style of architecture, but don't be afraid to just branch out a little bit. Do something slightly different for all of the houses, and maybe just step away from what you would actually build if this were to be realistic. Because honestly, if this were to be a realistic village, a lot of these houses would probably look very, very similar, but that would just not look very good in Minecraft. So maybe make some slight tweaks, add some uniqueness to all of the houses. Don't just have the same 2 or 3 designs repeating throughout the entire area. The next thing I want to talk about in this video is all of the details you can add to a roof to make them look better. So we've kind of covered a lot of the shapes that you can do, but there's a whole load of other things that you can add to your roofs that will improve the look of them. The first thing I want to talk about are the finials. I think that's probably the closest thing that a real life counterpart has to this, but it's the little section at the top of the roof here that sticks out and overhangs a little bit. Now you can always do something super simple like this, just a stair with an upside down stair, or maybe like we have over here, I think it's just a line of slabs with one extra coming out. But if you want to get a bit more heavy on the detail, you can do something like this, for example, having 3 stairs this time, then a fence and a lantern hanging down from below. So you may want to keep it pretty simple and just do something like a stair and an upside down stair, but if you want to do something maybe a bit more detailed, just have a mess around with some of the blocks that you're using here on the roof outline and see what you can come up with. So here we have some trapdoors just to bulk up this little area, and then simply just 2 stairs. This one right here is a simple stair and an upside down stair, but we've added on to that with a slab on top and then another stair sticking outward to make it come out that much further. Here's a pretty good one. This is 2 stairs back to back, a horizontal trapdoor underneath, a vertical trapdoor on top, 2 slabs, and then a big long dangling chain with yet another lantern on. There are some things you can do to make the filled in section of a roof a little bit more interesting. So for this building right here, I'm actually using some stripped oak logs in place of the oak plank. That way we've just got another texture in here, but it's still of a similar color. And you don't really have to change up how you build this. You simply just would switch out the oak planks for these oak logs. For this building right here, you can see I've actually switched out what I would usually put as oak stairs along here for spruce trapdoors. Whether this looks better or worse is kind of a matter of opinion, but it certainly is a little bit different than the rest of the buildings in this village. Now here's something I absolutely love doing. adding trapdoors in underneath the roof outline here. So as you can see, all of these are one block apart, and I think that looks so much better than, for example, if I just get rid of these, having the flat stairs all the way along the bottom here. That looks as though it's missing something, especially when you've seen how it looks with the trapdoors. Here's another example of how that looks like. This one even has some open fence gates to look as though it's kind of propping up the roof for added support. Something that I've done quite a lot in this village is add in these two things here, chimneys and little windows in the roof. So for the chimneys, you can have really any type of size. I've got some really big ones, like this one here goes all the way down to the ground, all the way up to the top of the building. We've got some more maybe medium sized ones that just start on the roof. And then we've got some really little ones like this, very simply just 2 full blocks and then a campfire surrounded with trapdoors. That's like my go-to chimney design. I think it is for most people, honestly. If you want to make something that's a bit more windy, you can add in some stairs and kind of curve around your chimney like I have here on my cleric's building. Or just keep it really simple and get rid of the blocks underneath the chimney entirely and just have the very top of it like I have for this one. And as for the windows, those two can be of varying sizes. These two are actually quite good examples. So as you can see, this one is really little. It's pretty much a 3x3 area. I've just kind of punched a hole in the roof here and replaced it with some different blocks so it stands out a little bit. And then we got this one over here, which is almost like an entire roof extension at this point, honestly. But it's still just a window. It doesn't actually bring the build out anymore. It's still confined to the roof here. If you guys can remember, at the start of the video, we focused on this house right here, and I said I would talk a bit more about these type of details. So stereotypically, you would maybe build something a little bit like this, just having the stairs going all the way across, which is great because then you could just put the trapdoors underneath. But I think that looks a little bit too flat in my opinion. So if you don't have room for trapdoors, which we wouldn't there in most cases, can't really put them anywhere around here, at least not in a pattern, you can do what we had before by just starting off with some upside down stairs and then just alternating between slabs and upside down stairs. You could even put some trapdoors possibly on top of them like this. Just have a mess around with the blocks that you have at your in your inventory and see what you can do. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is this. It's kind of like a divider. So you would start off on the bottom of the roof outline and add in almost like another separate miniature roof, kind of, at least the outline of one. And that just allows you to clearly distinguish between the bottom part of the build and the top part of the build, which is almost part of the roof itself, honestly. So I've got these in quite a lot of the builds around here. I do it fairly frequently, and that's because I like to have something that's a little bit separate from the bottom of the building to the top where we have part of the roof. You can make a whole nother room up there if you do this. So let's even take something as simple as this, for example. At the bottom of the roof outline, we've just got a line of stairs going across, which means we can use some different blocks on this top section here than we have underneath it. And I know this isn't really part of the roof anymore, but it's kind of like what I have down here for the base of the building. So I've got some separate blocks here and this beam going across, which is kind of acting as the same thing as what this is. Here's another pretty good example. So obviously this is the furthest out stair on the outline. On both of the sides we have a horizontal log as a beam going all the way across, and that just clearly distinguishes between the top of the build up here and the bottom down below. Hopefully that has made some kind of sense, along with everything else I've said in this video. I'm not sure if this is coming across as clear as I would like it to, so let me know down in the comments below if this has in fact been a helpful video. And if it has, I will try my best to make more videos like this in the future and help you guys out with expanding your building capabilities. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you've all enjoyed. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.